Hi, Nicci. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for coming onto the podcast. I appreciate you for being flexible and allowing me to record at your house. How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's a Saturday with not a whole ton going on, so it's a weird one.
Yeah, it is weird when we're not doing much on a Saturday, at least for me. I thought it'd be a great idea to have you on to get to know you a little bit, but as well for you to talk a little bit about Oblivion. I know that their season's coming up. I know that they are really excited and are really wanting to do some great work this season. So first, let's start by getting to know you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, how you started playing soccer, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I am Nicci Miller, but I was not born a Miller. I was born a Grimaldi. Okay. And I grew up in Southern California and started playing soccer at 7 years old. So my parents... very athletic background. Okay. My parents are both cops and did a bunch of, my mom was a collegiate tennis player. My dad was a runner and has multiple degree black belts and all the things and stuff. So I think I was hardwired athlete from the beginning. And so they put me in T-ball originally with all boys, which was not really a problem, but it was really boring. Mm-hmm. And so my mom was like, how about we try soccer? And they had never played before. And so in California, it was called, I don't even know if it still is, but AYSO. Mm-hmm. And so rec league soccer at 7 years old for the Golden Strikers. And I fell in love with it. Yeah. Nice. So that's where it all started. Mm-hmm. And I did well. And so it was like, okay, now it's time to move from, rec league to trying out for club and everything. And so club, now is really different than it was. Mm-hmm. I calculated, so I'm 37 years old, which is crazy. So I've been playing soccer for 30 years now, which is kind of like weird to say. Mm-hmm. But then when we tried out for a club team, it was like there was one team and you either made it or you didn't. And if you didn't, you went try it out for a different team. Or you decided that you weren't going to play club anymore and maybe you're going to play rec or high school or whatever. So anyway, that's kind of where it all started for me, and got on one club team and then decided it was time to try out for a different club team. And the second one that I tried out for was called Lady Renegades at first. And then it's what became Slammers FC in California. FC. So they're a powerhouse in California and stuff. So that was really the beginning of Slammers. And so that was a team that I stayed with all the way through when I went to college. Wow. Yeah, it was, people used to call it a dream team. Mm-hmm. It really was. So we had just, every player on the team was amazing. And so it was cool because you have all of these amazing players who actually enjoy working together as a team. Mm-hmm. And so it was really kind of an unstoppable,
like a force. And then everybody, I imagine, just ended up playing D1 at different schools.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Cool. Pretty much everyone went D1 at that point in time. And so, it's pretty amazing. We did well.
Are you still in contact with any of the Slammers?
Yes. Cool. Yeah. Several players, and you catch up and you're on Facebook or Instagram or whatever.
Those are different friendships. You went through battles with those guys, those girls. So what part of California?
Southern California. So I grew up in a town called Rossmore or Los Alamitos. Okay. So in the southern part of the state.
SoCal.
Yeah.
Cool. From the Slammers to OSU. But I'm curious, when did you start taking it serious? Like when did you make that decision, that switch to take it for real?
So that's a really good question. I think, so when it went to club, I don't think I really knew exactly what club was at that point in time. It was like, okay, you're too good to stay in rec, so it's time to go to club, and tried out for one club team and I didn't make it. So I was like,
That's a big cookie to chew when you transition. I remember my transition from going to just playing club and then saying, hey, come and play. And then you get thrown into Beat the Heat. And it's a big cookie to chew at first.
Yeah. So when I made the second club team, they were great. But I don't know what the shift was from there to it's time for something else. Mm-hmm. I think, my mom is crazy competitive and stuff too. She seemed like she
noticed that you needed a challenge.
Probably. Mm-hmm. And that's when I tried out for Lady Renegades. Mm-hmm. And then the lady that was coaching at the time, her name was Gail, and she stayed with us the whole time. She had a daughter on the team, and she was the coach. Oh, and she eventually brought in Ziad Corey, who he and Waleed are brothers, and they're the ones who run Slammers FC and everything, so that we could kind of take the team to the next level really at that point in time. And so for me, it probably was once Z was there that it got a lot more competitive. And I wasn't playing at first. So I was a forward and I was on the bench a lot. And I'm a super competitive person. And so I don't want to be on the bench. You want to be in the game. And I remember having extreme like confidence issues during that time. If you've ever sat on a bench, it's not super fun, right?
Nobody wants to sit on the bench.
It's horrible. And so it was one of those like turning point moments where my mom was like, okay, listen, you have like 3 options. So you can quit and find another team. It was quit and find another team, or you can work on it and we can get some private lessons and you can see what you want to do. And so I elected the private lesson route. And I don't even know how old I was at that time. I probably would say like maybe 11 or 12, which if I look at, I have a 7-year-old son who's been playing in academy since 6 and doing private lessons already at 6 years old. I'm that crazy mom. But that wasn't my story. And so I don't know if I was early to the game, late to the game, right on time to the game. Like I literally have no idea other than that's when I got to the game. And so I think, once I started training, Oscar was the guy, he was from Argentina. I started training with him and I had a couple other trainers where, we would have some shooting practices or skills practices and all these kinds of things. And so I think it was once I started to do that, we're invested now, right? Like we're paying money.
You're seeing your parents pay.
Yeah.
You're realizing that, okay, maybe I got to not slack off.
Yeah. And I don't know that was necessarily in the back of my head other than it was like, this is what we're doing. And I wasn't fighting it. It was like, okay, I don't want to be on the bench anymore. And so here's what I'm going to do to try to get back in the game. And so I, started to get better or whatever it was. But Ziad came up to me at practice one night and said, I would like to try you at defense rather than at forward. And so he's like, would you be up for that? And I always tell players, do not knock a position, ever, never. Yeah. And because here's the deal. When you can learn to play all the positions, maybe you're better at one than another, but you become this amazing utility player that probably is never going to go off the field. And then you start to like put stuff like I can bend the ball however I want, put the ball wherever I want, I can throw the ball far. And like you start to make yourself irreplaceable on the field. And so for me, I was like, yeah, let's do it because like I tell my son, playing is better than not playing.
Yeah. You don't want to say no because that's almost even worse. Like we needed you. You said no. Okay.
Yeah.
And you never know. Maybe playing defense will teach you something that you can use when you play offense,
It's true. But I think it's a life lesson too, if you want to think about it. So, I mean, even think about at work. Should you say yes to everything? No, not necessarily. But should you say yes to things to get experiences? Because that's how you discover what it is about you that is great or not so much, or like, I'm really good at this, or I didn't know. So I think saying yes and trying things is really important. And that benefited me greatly because I never left the field after that.
Dang. Okay. Does that mean you ended up being a defender?
I was.
No. So that was the moment.
That was the moment.
Wow. Okay.
And I wasn't a left-footed player, but I played on the left side.
Okay.
And my left foot got good. Wasn't great, but it got good. I never was a super skilled player. So I wasn't ever, the person taking on a million players, but I was super resilient. I was tough to get by. I like playing on the left because, usually had really strong right-footed players. So I'm like, all right, put me wherever the best kid is and let me mark them up. And so, that's where I played the whole time and got really good at putting the ball wherever I wanted it and, keeping it out of the net, right? And becoming a playmaker and passing balls and creating opportunities and spaces and stuff like that. And so for me, that was really, really impactful. And I freaking loved it. Like I love playing defense.
Yeah. You're destroying forwards' egos.
That's right.
That's the best thing to do. It's almost like, why is a goalie? Because he likes to be that one guy that's like, not me, not me. Before we leave that era of your career, is there one moment that you always look back on, like maybe your best club moment or that a play that you're just like, yeah, if I can maybe watch that play being played or something like that in your club years?
I don't know that I would say it was a play as much as it was a culture for me that I remember the most. So like I said, this team was this dream team. But everything that we did together. So I've got these pictures of, we'd be going to tournaments. And so we would have red shirts and matching overalls. And we would take pictures of these things. And we would just show up and crush teams. I mean, because we were together.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because especially now when you have all these players who are playing college and you've got the NIL and all this stuff, and maybe it hasn't impacted soccer as much yet, but it will. You can have this star player on a team, right? And they can go score all the goals. But what happens when the star player is injured? You want a team of star players, but who can work together? And that to me is what I remember the most, is it was the true definition of a team. Everybody's pulling their weight, everybody's putting in their time, and everybody's showing up to train. And that's why we were awesome. And we liked each other. And I think especially for girls, that's special. That doesn't happen all the time. So that's what I remember the most. And the other thing that I'll say is we used to go to Surf Cup every year. And what we would do is, that was in San Diego. So it was from where we lived about 2 hours-ish or so to get there. And so we would rent one of those big white vans.
Oh, cool.
And Z would be in the driver's seat and Gail would be in the passenger seat. And then we would all be in the back. And so the whole team would travel to Surf Cup together and we'd be singing at the top of our lungs,
awesome.
Songs and stuff like that.
While the parents are in the tail behind you guys.
Yeah. Chalk the windows and do all the things and stuff. And so I don't know. I think it's just like showing up, competing together, winning together, losing together, but just being together.
Yeah, that's hard to replicate outside of sports.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't do that without sports.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's valuable. At what point did you start contemplating where you were going to go play after playing club ball?
So, letters start to come in. I can't remember what time, that was at that time. And I think it's even different now.
And how did you go about recruiting? Because recruiting now is different than it is.
So different.
Than it was.
So my mom, keeps impeccable records. I mean, she's got scrapbooks of all the things.
Yeah, your mom sounds pretty cool.
My mom is awesome. And so she kept a resume for me, and she did it for my brother too. I should probably let you know that my brother's a professional hockey player. So we're 7 years apart. I'm the oldest, but this culture of athletics and, this never give up fight attitude and stuff like that was cultivated in us from a really early age. And so she used to keep this resume for me, and it would have, pictures of me and just things that went on during the year, things that we won or whatever. And we would send some of that out to college coaches, inviting them to come watch us play. And because our team was so good and the prospects on our team, it was ridiculous. I mean, we had girls going to UCLA and Oklahoma State and I think USC, top schools across the nation. And so it wasn't hard to get scouts to come out and watch. They were always there. And so whether it be at Surf Cup or at nationals or regionals or state or, whatever it is. And of course we're in California. And so that's prime, real estate for recruiters to come and watch players and everything. And so that's when it started to get really serious, as everybody, you start talking about college, right? That's the next step. And many of us played high school as well. So it wasn't uncommon to be in a club season and also a high school season as well. And so we all played for our high school teams and stuff too.
Was that in the spring or in the fall?
That's a good question. I think we played both seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, God, I really don't remember how high school worked, but it worked in together, and so, and we all went to pretty good high schools too. And so, it's you start to kind of go and you're like, okay, college is the next thing. Right. And at the time, and you read a lot of this and even the research on, college and why athletes pick colleges and stuff. For me, I was going for my sport. I figured, I'll just figure out my major whenever I get there and stuff. And so I knew that the next step was college. And so, I started to get these packets in the mail from colleges of, check this out and check this out and check this out. And so, and then it was, once they're allowed to start calling and stuff like that too. And then you're getting calls and some different things. And it's like, oh, well, holy cow, like this is real. Like this is actually happening. And okay, I'm good enough to do this. Like somebody thinks I'm good enough to do this. And so, but I didn't feel the pressure of that I remember that much. I don't know why, unless like they just insulated me from it. But for me, the pressure started when I tore my hamstring. I think it was my junior year. It was prime recruitment season. And I tore it out of the origin. So it was like a pretty big deal. We were running sprints at practice and I was next to the girl next to me and I'm running. And then all of a sudden I heard what sounded like a tree branch breaking and then the and I was like, oh, great. And so that was about a year-long recovery. So what was really stressful during that time is I went from having all these amazing colleges recruiting me to like, why aren't they calling anymore? And that kind of freaks you out, because you're like, oh my God, like I'm about to go D1 and they're not calling anymore. So am I going to college? Like, am I not going to college? Like, what is happening? And, it's debilitating and stuff too, because, you're in your head about it and everything. And so, I started to get better and was able to, get back on the field. But of course, like, at the beginning when you're rehabbing from an injury like that, like it's not easy getting back, you're not at your
you gotta build your fitness,
best. Yeah.
Confidence on the field.
All of it. And so it just so happened that I was at Surf Cup. I think it was Surf Cup. Yeah. And we were playing and I was back at that point in time. And now this doesn't happen all the time, so I don't want the listeners to think that like this goes down in games on a regular
every Thursday
time
at Squirrel KC. This happens.
Yeah. But I scored a goal from the halfway line.
Oh wow.
It was sick. Like it was like one of those where you just like kick it and it goes like straight over the goalie's head.
Put me in the play. Like where'd you get the ball? Like why did you decide to shoot it from the half? What gave you the...
I don't know. it's like it came from this side and
You're
I put it
left.
forward. Yeah, I'm on the left and it came to me and I put it forward. I'm in the middle of the field and I just rip it.
Just launch it.
And I don't remember if the goalie was out or not or what. Like, I don't think they were out like super far or anything like that. But I mean, I put it in and it just so happened that Oklahoma State was at that game.
Wow.
And so I think, I don't believe in coincidence. I think that was a God moment where it was like, okay, this was the right school at the right time to see that play. Yeah. And I don't know if that was what made them start wanting to recruit me. I like to think that I was awesome before I scored that goal.
Yeah, your mom kept a really good resume, but that might have been the cherry on top to make the resume look.
So anyway, they started recruiting me pretty immediately and stuff like that too. And so after taking a trip to Oklahoma State, it was amazing. I mean, it was like, I'm from big time California, right? Yeah. Like there's cars and there's traffic and there's all the things. And then you go to Oklahoma and there's like
Stillwater.
Grass.
Yeah. Did you drive or did you fly?
We drove.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the first time that we went, we flew because we came on the official trip. My mom and I went on the official trip. And so... I
think your son's awake.
Oh. Hey, buddy. So we flew and, Stillwater is a really special place if you've never been there. And especially if you haven't been there, go toward the end of the month because the walk around, the OSU walk around is happening and that's awesome. Yes. So, it was a football weekend. I mean, they planned the recruitment perfectly, right? Like the sights, the smells, all the things.
Everything's orange. It's fall.
Yep. It's fall.
The
oh my gosh.
orange,
it's fall. All of it. And it was mesmerizing. I had never seen anything like that or experienced anything like that. And, you know, it was like the girls on the recruitment trip with me were all really cool. They were going to be in my class. Like it was awesome. At the time, Karen was one of the head coaches, and she's still one of the head coaches now. And her parents would have breakfast for the team on Sundays before the games.
Whoa.
And they made eggs and I think it was waffles and like deliciousness. And so we would have that before Sunday games and everything, and we'd go to the house. And so it was just this like, it was this home away from home. And I was going to be so far from home.
Yeah.
And so I really was looking for a place that felt like home, but also had a really good team that could compete. And the year before I got in, they had won the Big 12 tournament.
Oh, really? They have a solid program.
It's
a really
solid.
program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Always. I don't think OU touches OSU there. But yeah, let's not talk about that. Anyways, how was your time at OSU?
It was amazing. I will say, though, that it didn't start out amazing. And so when I came to OSU, my thought and expectation was I'm going to be a contributor straight out of the gates, and I am going to contribute immediately. And that wasn't what happened. Again, on the bench for the first little bit. And it's like I was still playing in every one of the games, but definitely not any kind of minutes that I wanted to be.
Yeah, we were talking about eating that cookie, taking that cookie from going to rec to club. Now you're going from club in high school to college. That's another big cookie to eat too.
Yeah, and you're like the little fish in the big
you're
pond
back
again.
To square one.
Yep.
Freshman.
And I'm a freshman trying to compete for a spot on the team, you know, and
they just won Big 12, so they must have some players coming back that are just solid. You know,
it was a
spot.
good team. And we had a good freshman class coming in, and we had some good transfers coming in. One of them who came into the position that I was going to be playing in too. And she was great. And so it wasn't what I had hoped that it would be. And so, of course, you know, the confidence stuff starts again to where you're like, okay, do I like try to stick it out? Like, is this ever going to get better? Can I do this? Should I have gone somewhere else closer to home? And I considered transferring, but it never felt right. It was one of those things where it's like, I always tell people that when you're going to leave something, it can't be an emotional decision, and you have to be running to something, not from something. And had I made that transfer decision, I would have been running from something. And I think that what's been built in me over the years of this resiliency is it doesn't happen perfectly for me every time, right? When something bad happens, I go in the fetal position too. I cry, I eat and gain weight and do the things, right? Like that happens. But I always get up and I always find a way back. And I know that about myself. And so I think what sports, if you allow it to do for you, and what we have to see in athletes now is that resiliency. Because so much of what we, okay, back to it. What I was going to say is so much of what we see right now is we have the resiliency, yes, but we contend with this additional layer, especially boys and girls, both, this additional layer of confidence issues, right? Because we have social media and we have all of these things that we can compare ourselves to, and we have so much information that we literally don't even know what to attend to. And so the assumption is we're not good enough. We'll never be good enough. Someone's always going to be better. There's nothing better, you know, whatever. And if we're not strong enough, we succumb to this lie that we can't be better. And so I think what was important for me in that season, and what's going to be important for me as a mom when I'm talking to my kids when they go through these difficult things, or if I'm talking to other, younger players, or even even players on my team. I mean, I'm not one of the young ones on the team. Okay. Like I'm the old lady, not the oldest lady though. But I'm one of them. Life is hard sometimes, and nobody was promised an easy road. But the thing is we get better, when we push through.
Yeah.
And we get to experience this other story of here's what I did when the going got tough. And so for me, sitting on the bench like that, I had done that before, and I had a formula for success. Did I know it was going to work? No, not necessarily.
That's never guaranteed.
No, but I had experienced it before. Now, in club, had I decided to quit, I might have quit in college. Had I decided to change to a different team in club, I might have done that in college because I did that before. But what I did in club was I hunkered down and I said, let's get after it. And so in college, I did the same thing. And I found myself on the field again and able to contribute every minute of every game.
Nice. This was just a freshman year or?
Well, let's say sophomore year. Okay, so freshman year, half of the game or whatever, it just kind of depended on the game and the day and stuff, right? But like me getting through that first year and seeing so I mean, I went back into defense and I played and I contributed to every single game after that. What was nice about what I mentioned earlier about being able to kind of be that utility player is we had a player get injured. I can't remember if it was my sophomore or junior year. I want to say it might have been sophomore year, in the center midfield. So I was able to go in and, contribute some minutes there and stuff too. And every once in a while they'd let me go up to forward and try to score a goal and stuff like that, which was cool. But my primary love was always defense.
Left back.
Yeah.
Nice. And then, so you did all 4 years there at OSU?
I did.
And then just completed every minute of junior and senior year as well?
Yeah, sophomore, junior, and senior year. And we got to, go to the Big 12 tournament all the years that I was there. And then the NCAA tournament, I think 3 out of 4. And so that was a really big deal for the program because we hadn't really been doing that on a consistent basis and stuff. And so that was really kind of the start, or it was becoming the start, right before I came in and stuff. Yeah.
Nice. So, and then I guess transitioning after that, was it hard to stop playing for you?
Yes. When I stopped playing, so soccer's a fall sport, so you finish, in November-ish or whenever the NCAA tournament finishes. I was really fortunate that we were at the NCAA tournament and we were actually drew a seed in California.
Oh, wow.
And so my last game was against UCLA, and, they were a powerhouse and still are. And we lost that game, but we played a good game. But I was able to finish where I started, and my entire family was there to watch it and everything too. So that was really cool. But yes, after playing, there's just this, or was this sort of like this,
like a void.
Yeah, and like this disillusionment of like I said before, I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years now. So at 7, I fell in love with this sport that I wanted to, play for the women's national team, and like everything that you did was soccer. Every vacation that you went on was around soccer. It's the longest standing commitment in your life, aside from the fact that I've been born to my parents, and then it's just over. And it's done. And at that time, there wasn't a whole lot for women after that. It was right when some of the leagues were going on, but they were folding. And so kind of a bummer time for me, of course, just the timing of it all. And so, it's like I graduated from college. I moved back home. Home doesn't feel the same because I haven't lived there for 4 years. I was in a relationship for all 4 years while in college. We broke up. So I come home and that's gone. And soccer's gone, and it just was the perfect storm. And I had gotten a really good community in Stillwater outside of the team with the church family that I became very close to. And so I found myself really missing that community of people and the friendships. And so I had gotten some post-grad scholarships from the NCAA after playing and stuff. And I will tell you too that just sort of a sidebar, I was OSU's Female Athlete of the Year right before I left college. Yeah. And I don't say that to necessarily like say, wow, I'm awesome. But what I say to that is to go from being a kid who sat on the bench when I first started and looked at the situation and said, I'm not content with this. I'm going to do something about it, to being able to realize that at the end of 4 years, that to me is what the amazing part. Even it would have been amazing had I not gotten that. But I think that is really a cool, factor and stuff. And so I just, I wasn't ready to be done, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was or what I was doing or anything like that. And so a friend of mine who was on my club team, she was like, hey, I'm playing for a semi-professional team called LA Legends. You want to play? You, me, and Bree are all going to play. And I was like, sure, why not? Like, let's do it. And so I was toying with using some of the post-grad scholarship money to like go in the fall and get my master's at Cal State Fullerton and do some of that stuff in like kinesiology. I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll just go into like sports training and all of that. And so I started playing with LA Legends, and we did one trip to Washington, like Seattle. And it was really cool. It was a really fun trip and everything. But I was not in a good headspace at that time. Like everything you've heard me say has been like commitment and resiliency and devotion and all this stuff. Like something was not right because I was just not invested. And I lasted for a few weeks, I think maybe a month, and just decided that just wasn't, it didn't feel like college. It didn't feel like club.
You just didn't have it in you anymore.
Yeah. And the team wasn't what I exactly necessarily wanted it to be, but it wasn't as organized, right? Like, and so I told the coach at the end of one of the games, like, thanks so much, but like, this just isn't where my heart is anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to Oklahoma and start a master's program there. And so I did that. And I went back to start a master's program and stayed there, kind of through that time. So once I finished playing then, that would have been in summer 2008. I did not play again until 2011, 2012 maybe. When my husband was working for Ernst & Young and we were here in the city and playing at Soccer City, one season of indoor with his work team. And so then after that, I did not play again until 2019 when I was in the middle of doing my dissertation about the transition to life after sport and what happens to an athlete's athletic identity. Like with what I was talking about, just being totally just what in the heck. And so I thought, okay, well, my son kept asking me like, Mom, am I ever going to see you play? Like, will you ever play again? And I'm like, maybe I'll do it, And then I finally was like, well, what the heck am I waiting for? Let's just do it. Because that way I could put myself in the frame of mind of that athlete mindset again and stuff. And so I played outdoor. I think it was like a 9v9, 7v7, 9v9 outdoor, whatever, with a bunch of dudes. And it was fun. I played a few games and then that was it. And then I didn't pick up playing again until March of 2022.
Wow.
So, it's been like
some big gaps.
Yes.
And then what were you doing? Is that when Oblivion kind of started coming into the picture, or like I'm curious as to how and why you ended up here at Oblivion.
So I didn't know anything about Oblivion when I first started playing again. Like I was playing at Soccer City. I played in a women's league to get started. And then when that ended and that team wasn't going to play again because they only would like play certain seasons, I was like, well, gosh, I need to like find another team to play for because I can do this again. And I originally, I'll tell you, I stopped playing originally when my husband and I first got married because we were working and the games at Soccer City were at like 9-10 o'clock at night. And so it was one of those where I was like, okay, I'm an adult professional now and I probably need to like
really get some hours of sleep.
Sleep and not look like a bum in the morning at work and stuff. Now I've just committed to less sleep and bum life.
How's that working out? Are you happier?
Actually, yes. Because I'm doing what I love and enjoy to do. And, you know, there's time to sleep later. But, so yeah, like when I first started playing and I couldn't find a team because it was really hard to like get on a team in a league that I wanted to, because, you know, a lot of those teams stay together for a million years. And so I just was playing pickup at Score OKC on Thursdays and getting to know people. And then I finally just started like circulating my number out there to say like, I'll sub, I'll do whatever. And so I would sub on these teams and kind of get a feel for like, okay, this team feels good, or this team maybe doesn't feel as good, or, you know, whatever.
These teams are like families, you know?
They're
so
are.
hesitant about bringing somebody in. And even when they do, there's this wall there. And,
yes.
Yeah.
And there's drama and there's different stuff. And so it was like I was looking for my band, you know, like the right band.
I worked maybe 10 years at ISA, from scorekeeping to reffing, and I've seen how the community comes in and goes out. So I've seen all those families and the dramas, and yeah, it's unique. It's unique.
It is. And it's a really small world too.
It
So it's like if you're playing on a team and, you know, you play against this other team and you have the beef with this player, then they might be on your team that you're playing with the next time or whatever too. And so like you learn that it's such a small world. So I was able to get on this team called Post Office that I'm still on the team and stuff when we play on Saturdays. And it's like one of my favorite teams to play with. And it feels good. We've got a bunch of gritty players who just like go out there and work hard and work together. And it's just fun. Like competing to me is fun and motivational and stuff. And so I was about 20 pounds heavier than I am right now. And, you know, I've had 2 kids in that time, one in 2015 and one in 2018. So I'm carrying baby weight and just, you know, lazy person weight and all this stuff. But I'm like, okay, like I'm like putting goal, and I'm playing forward. Okay. So I'm not playing defense, playing forward now. And, you know, my goals are worth 2, which used to really kind of make me pretty angry at first, but now I see the strategy in it. So I'm like, give me the ball so we can get 2 goals. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was like playing good and I'm scoring in every game. And I'm like, okay, like what can this body still
what do I have left
do? Like, let's
push this
a little bit. And so I hired a registered dietitian in October last year.
Okay.
And so it's been a year. I've lost 20 pounds.
Okay.
I've got my muscle back. And I've been, you know, working on the side sometimes with some friends and stuff to sharpen myself and do all that. So for me, Oblivion came in the picture.
Jesus, you weren't doing anything, and now you're in the. Let's see what we got. Now we're sitting semi-pro. Season's about to start.
Yeah, and so Oblivion didn't come in the picture because I knew nothing about it. I didn't know anything about what was going on in Oklahoma. I mean, I'm not from here, and you know, and where I went to school in Stillwater, so like I literally had no idea. And so it came into the picture. I'm trying to remember when. It's been a few months now, probably at least 6 months or so that I learned about it. I think were done probably with their season by the time that I learned about it. And I was like, oh, there's a semi-pro team. Like, are they any good? Like, you know, whatever. And so
those little questions start popping up.
Yep. All the questions. And it's like, okay, what league is the highest league at Soccer City? Am I in the highest league? Like, am I competing? Like, could I compete with these girls? How
many goals do they have?
Yeah. Like I have these goals and like what girls on that team, you know, whatever, like, let's see. And so I started talking to people and it was like, okay, like maybe we can do this. And then a girl named Bree called me and was like, I'm putting together a team to play in this tournament over Memorial Day weekend. And, you know, will you play with us and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So we end up playing against Oblivion. and we got beat. And it was okay because we had a, young team when we first got started and stuff. We never played together, but I felt like we did pretty good. I could play the first day, but I couldn't play the second day because we were going on vacation and stuff. So they played them again. But after the game, like I met Amanda Miller and she was like, you're going to come try out for our team, right? And I'm like, what? And let me think about that because, I'm a mom and I work full time and, I coach too on the side and stuff. And so it's like, how do you do this? Like, and my kids aren't little, like they're not tote babies anymore. They're like full blown in their own activities and stuff. So like, is this even possible? And so they were like, well, we could be flexible and different stuff like that. But I'm like, but what does that mean? Because like I'm a scheduled person. And so like, you don't do a dissertation while working full time and having 2 babies in the middle of the program by not having a plan.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I just told my husband, I'm like, let's just take this a day at a time and see what happens. And let's see if I can do it and, whatever. And so it's been okay so far. So I've had to reschedule several things. I've had to miss, before and stuff too. But it's like trying to figure out, life doesn't necessarily end with motherhood. Or college ending or any of those things. And I think that a journey for a woman sometimes looks a little bit different. And in order to allow her to continue to flourish, I think we have to work with her.
Yeah.
And in all the ways that life has demands of her. And so I've appreciated that support so that I could continue to
do what you want to do.
Yeah. Live my dream too, as long as my body will let me. At this point. So yeah, so that's how I kind of got to know about them and stuff. And then it was like, okay, I'm doing this. Like first it's like, I'm just going to try out and see if I can make the team. And then it's like a little bit more, a little bit more, so.
Oh, and then you told me that you just hurt your hamstring. So you're recovering now.
I'm recovering.
But I feel like with all the experience that you have, you're a little bit more, you're going about it a little bit better now than if you would have your first hamstring injury, maybe?
Yeah, I hope so. So, my body screamed at me 3 times audibly loud, like, stop it. And I was like, nah, I got this. And then it was like, no, you don't got this. Like, you're going to be sitting out for the first game because you didn't take the time. So I learned a tough lesson because I'm not 20 anymore.
Yeah.
And you'll hear a lot of athletes say that, especially as they hit that mid-30 range, like how you train has to be different. And I didn't exactly know or understand that until more recently, that what I do...
everything has a price.
It does. And I may have to take a little bit of extra time or, maybe I can't play 4 times a week. Maybe 2 is my max. And that's okay because that's what works for my body, right? Like I don't have to compare myself to the girl that's playing 4 times and I can only play 2. The plan is that we both show up on the same day to play the same game, right? It doesn't really matter. And we're both fit and ready to go. And so, yes, I've been hitting physical therapy. I hit 3 times this week. I've got it twice next week on the deal. I've got ice going and compression going and Advil going and all the things. And so I'm doing everything in my power to rest up and play the long game rather than just like try to get better and play in a scrimmage, hurt myself again, and then have it be another 2 or 3 weeks before I can get on the pitch again.
How has it been for your son to see you playing again?
I think really good. I think it has created, and both of my sons actually play academy and stuff too. So the little one, I don't know if he fully understands yet, but the bigger one.
He's waking up in messy jerseys. I think he's doing fine.
Yeah, he is in a messy jersey. But I think it's helped us bond a little bit more. And I've been able to coach him and do some different stuff. And I think what's really cool with him and even with some of the other kids on his team and stuff, when they come out and they watch me play and they see like, oh, Coach Nicci, and when she tells me to go hard, like she's going hard. And so
you can't, because you're showing them how. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's like there's this level of a different kind of trust with my son too. Like if I say, hey, you need to kind of do like this. It's like, okay, mom actually knows what she's talking about, and that's always hard for a kid, right? Like if you're trying to correct them and stuff too. But I think what's been really cool for me is, when you think about this life that I've lived before having children, that was like my whole life, right? Before even getting married. And then it's like my husband's never seen me play. My kids have never seen me play. And maybe that's in the past, but that's so weird for me that it's like, here you have this whole life before. How do you share that? And so I think what's really cool for me is just being able to have the opportunity to share that with them.
A little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that part I think is really cool, that you get another chance to let them see me, because that's part of my identity too, and who you am.
Are during the 2 25-minute halves is different from the mom that they get here. So I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I don't think my kids have seen me play too much, but I very much resonate with the identity that you have before and the identity that you have now, because you lived the whole life on the field, and that life is different from this life. And, they're very, 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 very different. But at the same time, that's all you, the competitiveness and all that stuff, that's deep down in you, even though you think it's not. And then, when you go out and touch a ball, you realize that little guy's still in there. It's like, and it's fun to pull him out. And maybe, someone starts talking mess to you and you realize that, that I still got it in me to be able to still say those kind of things. And I wholeheartedly know exactly where you're coming from with that. So that's funny. Yeah. And is coaching filling that playing void that you used to have? Because it's totally different.
Coaching is totally different than playing. And I don't know which one I like better. A lot of people will finish playing and say like coaching is better than playing. I made a joke the other day because I coached the 2018 Boys Academy red team from NOKC. And, it's like it's a cluster cuss out there. I mean, and so I was cracking up with the parents because one of them was like, "You're just like this little magician." Because I'm out there on the field with the players, kind of like helping them know what to do and stuff, and
orchestrating them. Making sure no one's distracted with the butterflies.
I don't know how you do all these things that you do. And I said, because I'm literally playing the game, but like they're my chess pieces, and so I'm like sitting there trying to like not lose the game. And
you're pushing the goalie to fall. Like I've seen that clip of the dad that just pushes the player into the goal.
Yes. So, I mean, it's tough because that age is so hard to coach, but I've also coached up at the, U9 level and stuff. And with those kids, and they're finally starting to combine passes with each other and all of this stuff. And so it's really satisfying to see like what you're doing and imparting to them be put to life. And then at the moment when you can like back off and just watch the game, that's a really cool moment. But I'm not gonna lie, like going out there and like physically gritting it out for myself is incredibly satisfying.
I can tell you how to kick a ball, but I would much rather go down there and pound it myself. Yeah. I feel like coaching, there's different niches, and every coach needs to find what they prefer, and maybe you haven't found it yet. It's kind of like a teacher, there's early development teachers, middle school teachers, there's special ed teachers, there's high school teachers, there's college teachers. And, some coaches don't like to be in the developmental part of it. Other coaches just like to be where the only thing that matters is the W. And so I very much like coaching too, for that very part of you get to sit back and just watch the habits. Or because I coached, my first coaching gig was for the PAL, Oklahoma City Police Athletic League. My wife was working at Heronville and they needed a volunteer coach, so she pulled me up to it, and I was coaching 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And it was just so fun having to deal with the mayhem that came with all these kids that have never played. Some are playing club, skill levels all over the place. But like, I would just put him to scrimmage and just get to watch him play. And I'd be like, look, that guy, he's the smallest one, but man, does he get stuck in. He could be a good center defensive mid. Yeah. That guy's pacey and he dribbles. I could put him out on the wing. And it was just putting together this, it was like a movie, basically.
It's a strategy.
Yeah, it's a strategy to it. But there's a beauty when you just get to sit back and watch them win. And they ended up winning all city.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, then they're never going to forget that. Now those kids are seniors in high school, and I'm still coach for those guys.
That's awesome.
And I only had them for 6 months. And I was like, how do you explain you know, parents are huge in the kids' life, but just right under them are coaches.
Yeah.
You know, and you told me about those moments that you had with your club coaches. Those, you know, only because you're playing sports you get that. You know.
Yeah.
So being a coach, I think, is top of the line.
It's a major responsibility because you may be the only parent for some of those kids even too, or you're the consistent thing every week that they can rely upon and stuff. And so I take the role really seriously because you're a role model to them as well. And sports should be fun. We make it not fun a lot of times. And so the goal is that the kid loves playing, period. And I take that part of it really seriously. So,
if you had to tell someone about Oblivion or try to convince them to come and watch them play, what would you say?
So the team is good. There's good, solid, quality
It's good
play.
soccer.
It is good soccer. And I think what's really cool is you have this like range of age even on the team too. You have some really, really young players, and then some of us are a little bit more seasoned. And you need the seasoned ones, right? Because they have some of the experience or the maturity, and then you need the younger ones because they've kind of got that fight and drive and, you know, the energy and the stuff like that too. And so I think what's really cool is watching that all mesh together. And the other thing that I think is cool too is, you know, like I said earlier, so many of us, we may not have been able to have this opportunity again, but we still have it in us to play. And so I think what's really cool is to watch women who, everybody's in a totally different walk of life, right? Like my walk of life is I've got 2 kids. I work full time. I coach. Like I've got a lot on my plate and I'm still getting out there. And then you have these other moms with kids and we're getting our bodies back in shape and we're out there and we're still able to compete and stuff. And so I think just as a community of women in various walks of life coming together and supporting one another on the field so that we can all achieve this dream that we all have together, I think is really cool. And so, I think culture makes a big difference for any game that you go to, right? Like there's certain cultures around teams that mesmerize you and make you want to come back to the games. And so I hope that the culture that we're building here in Oklahoma City, because we're the first women's professional indoor team that will be in the PASL. And so that's a really big deal for women's sports. And that's a really big deal for Oklahoma that we have this. You know, we're seeing the spark. We've got, you know, women's football team. And like we have these things for women that are happening. And I think it's so important that we support that because we have all these other little girls and, you know, little boys that are looking at what I get to do next. Like I have this God-given ability and it just has to stop after high school or college. Like, no, like you can still keep playing this sport that you love. And I think that if I were encouraging people to come and watch, I would say those things. Like you have these women who are awesome that are coming out and playing together, and they got 5th out of 17 teams last year. It was the first year. It was the first year. So imagine what we can do. You know, we even were talking about going into the scrimmage this Saturday or this Sunday tomorrow, and talking about like, here's the things that we have not covered yet. And there's several things on that list. So I don't know how the game's going to go Sunday. I think it's going to go well because I think everybody's going to work their hardest. But irrespective of whatever,
keep going. I'm going to hit the record button.
Yeah, irrespective of whatever the outcome ends up being, what's cool is we've only just begun, and so there's more to come as we learn plays and learn combinations and learn when to high pressure versus when to low pressure. And like, maybe we played indoor some growing up, but like we came from outdoor. Indoor is a different ball game.
Yeah, there's
literally
schemes, plans,
Yes.
plays,
And
subs to get
yes.
down.
And there's the wall that you use, and there's a strategic way to use it and stuff. And so I think that's what's really cool, is to think like, okay, you take a bunch of outdoor players, throw them in indoor, they're pretty good. But what happens when you actually teach them how to play indoor?
Because you can take what's the saying that I said? It's harder for an outdoor player to play indoor. Well, it might be the other way around, but I think it's harder for an outdoor to play indoor than it is for indoor. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, you have like a lot of times, sometimes you'll see like players really good at outdoor, but maybe they're not as good at indoor, or vice versa.
It's different from futsal
It
to
is.
outdoor because of the wall.
It is.
That wall's a cheater. If you're a newbie, you can get away with just hitting it off the wall and running to the other side.
Yeah, and you can get away with being lazy a little bit more sometimes. It kind of just depends, but I think they're different, but the game runs a little bit differently with each one, and there's different, it's a lot quicker. There's different formations based on the types of players that you have, just like there is in outdoor too, but outdoor's a little bit more spread out. Indoor's a little more compact. So you got to be able to make quick decisions, or it's going to punish you a little bit quicker, right? Than if you turn the ball in the middle of the field on an 11v11 outdoor field, you got a little bit of time to try to recover. In indoor, you're shooting from half.
Yeah.
You
they can score on in 6 seconds.
Yeah. So.
Okay. What's been the funnest part about learning the indoor game as opposed to being an outdoor game? Is the spark coming back, or is this just like a temporary thing for you, do you think?
No, I think, like I said, as long as I can keep playing, I'm going to. But I think what's cool for me is, like I said a minute ago, is like I've never learned how to play indoor. I know how to play indoor, right? Like see ball, run after it, try to put it in the net, right? But the actual strategy of indoor and how you play and all of that stuff, I think is cool, because you're never too old to learn something new, and to learn and grow. And I'm an educator and stuff too. And so like anytime that I can learn a new skill or do something is cool to me. And so I'm really just looking forward to knowing how to play that game a little bit more, and then seeing what I can do within that game. And so, anyway, that's, to answer your question, really kind of what I'm excited about. I don't think the spark will go. I think the spark will go when I realize like one of these days I might not be able to keep up with these girls anymore. But for right now, I'm okay. So
you're working on the dissertation.
Yeah. So I graduated with my PhD from Oklahoma State in 2020. And so my dissertation that I worked on was about the transition to life after sport and athletic identity.
Which
and
I find so interesting.
Yeah. But specifically in the extended transition spaces. So I interviewed women who were 7 to 17 years past their collegiate eligibility. Wow. And what I found was that athletic identity, it doesn't really transition, it translates. And so what I mean by that is the best parts of who we are as athletes translate into motherhood, work life, home life, whatever. And I'll give you an example. Like I was telling you earlier, when I play left back, my personality is like I'm the first child. I'm a rule follower. Like I like to see everything in front of me. I like to make the play. And so being a left back, I had some boundaries, right, on the sides. And so being in the middle, I don't love the middle as much necessarily.
It's a little chaotic.
It's a little more chaotic for me. But some of my friends who are a little less OCD, they like the middle, right? And so that suits me really well on the outside. And then, I assisted a lot as a left back, and I also took all the set plays. And so just the creativity of those things. And so I look at myself now and I direct strategy for a living, basically. And I have a business on the side that I design and create things. And so the best parts of me as an athlete, even my position on the field, translate into those parts about me. And you were probably hearing me tell my son when he came in a little bit ago and was like, I need water. And I was like, dude, go get a water bottle. And he's like, I can't find the water. And I'm like, well, what do you do when you can't figure out a problem. He's like, look for a solution. You know what I mean? So it's like, you hear those things that, you know, are that athlete part of you and stuff. And so I think what's important is, and what came out of that study is that translation piece, but also this piece that, you know, so many people fall apart after sports because their identity is completely wrapped up and absorbed into who they are and in this glorified self of like, who they were, the good old days and the fans that cheered my name and the NIL deals now and all of this stuff.
But you can't keep living with what you used to and what you were.
No. But the best is yet to come. It isn't that you lived your best life until 22 and then it's all downhill from there. And that, I think, is what was really impactful from doing that study and the dissertation, and what I spend a lot of time talking to students about. I work at UCO. Whether they be athletes or non-athletes or whatever, but specifically the athlete population, because that's what the study was geared to, was that we need to figure out who you are. Like, the sport doesn't define you. You define you. God defines you. And you go and you make your mark on this. This is the sport, you make your mark. This is your work, you make your mark. This is your kids, you make your mark. And it doesn't end with that. There is better, and there's more to come. And it's about discovering what that is inside of you that continues to make this mark on the world. Like I always talk about your fingerprint. And you're literally the only person in the world with this fingerprint. There's never been anyone on the earth like you. And there will never be anyone like you when you leave the earth again. And so we want you to make your mark. You don't just make it one time and then
call it a day. No, you got more to do. There's more work to be done.
There's more for you. And there's this beautiful life in front of you. And I think it's really important to help those athletes learn how to translate the parts of them that make them amazing athletes into amazing moms and dads and husbands and wives and workers and coaches, all mentors, the hats, all the things, right? Like
bosses.
There's more. There's more.
I have a lot of odd things that I like to work on. Like I started doing photography, videography. Heck, I wanted to start doing podcasting. And I don't know where I came up with the words, but I told myself one day, I was like, man, if I can attack any problem like I attacked my soccer problems, I'd be pretty good. You know, if I can just take that same effort, the same grit that I did with all the soccer problems that I ran into, I could solve damn near any problem I have. And when I put it that way, I was just like, duh.
You can.
Is that weird?
No. You can, because you're equipped.
Yeah.
Just like I was talking about, like I didn't quit there. Like I look at different aspects in life where I'm like in the fetal position because something went down at work and it hurt my feelings. And it's like, okay, I can either quit and get a new job, or I can like stick in and teach myself to have a conversation, because when you're on the team, you can't have beef with one of your teammates. Y'all got to sort it out because you got to play together and stuff. And so that translates into that life too and stuff. And so yeah, I mean, a lot of times, especially with athletes who are struggling to do well in school and stuff like that, it's like, well, apply the same motivation that you apply out on the field and you've got it. Are you going to be the smartest person in class? No, not necessarily, right? Like no one's expecting that. We all have our levels of abilities and stuff. But if you apply yourself, good things will happen. Like that is a 1 + 1 = 2 situation. And so, like I think it's taking these best parts of you and unearthing and discovering what they are. And part of that involves doing things outside of sports too, and trying other stuff and saying yes, like we were talking about earlier, to like, I'll try that, you know, who knows, maybe I'll be good at it. And so,
Wow. Well said. Let me ask you some random questions just before we close off on the podcast, because this has been very fun. We've been going for more than an hour already. If you weren't doing soccer, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't, athletically?
If you didn't do soccer, what would it have been?
So I tried pickleball the other day.
I have been trying to do pickleball.
It's so fun.
Is it?
It's so fun. So I don't know. I loved volleyball, and I've had some people like invite me out to play volleyball and stuff. I just like don't have time to do that right now, but maybe pickleball. Cause that, I don't know, it was a good workout and it was fun. And
yeah. Where did you play?
Chicken and Pickle.
That's where I've been trying to go. It seems really simple to just go in there and play. And plus the place is nice. There's a bar, there's food.
Yeah.
You can't beat that place.
There's a place in Edmond too, over by the, I think it's called Kicking Bird. You can get a pretty good, I don't know, pickleball membership for not very much money and play and stuff. So we were looking at that one time because my husband and I were like, maybe we could do that on our Fridays off.
Imagine?
Or, you know.
It's the competitive pickleballing.
Oh, bless it. Yeah.
For people that are in a position that you're in, do you have any advice for those that are just feel overwhelmed, busy, they're working, they have kids, they're trying to do an extracurricular activity, but just they can't find the time. It doesn't seem possible. Time isn't ours right now. But any advice for those people that want to just add something personal to that?
I think it's hard and it's individual for each person, right? But for me, I live by this thought that we make time for the things that are important to us. But I also recognize that there are different seasons in life for things. And some seasons don't lend well to wearing all the hats and doing all the things. A friend of mine told me the other day, he was like, I'm really like, I can't believe you do all the things that you do. And I was like, I literally don't know how it's happening other than I feel like I'm just graced in this season right now. Like it's just a grace season for me. Like it's all just kind of working, but it doesn't work easily. I mean, we still don't know our Oblivion schedule or our full-on practice schedule yet and stuff. And I've got teams that we have games that I'm coaching, and I moved a bunch of stuff the other weekend, and I move what I can when I can, but sometimes I can't. And so it's this okay, do I miss Oblivion or do I miss my kids' game? And it's not and never is an easy decision. And for me, it's not always a straightforward decision. And I know that may sound really weird to some people because they're like, well, you should always choose your kids. And like, I agree, you should always try to choose your kids. But I also consider that me only choosing them doesn't demonstrate to them that I also choose me, and that it's important that I also take care of myself too. And I may not be at every single one of their games, and they need to know that I support them and love them regardless, because that motivation and drive comes from within and not from who's in the stands. And so the other day I had to make a really difficult decision to not go to their games and go to Oblivion practice. And the reason for that decision was we have game this weekend and I need to be at that practice. And that was the call that I made. Unfortunately, I got hurt at that practice, which stinks, but it is what it is. And so I feel like there's oftentimes an opportunity cost of when you pick one thing, you're not picking something else. And what I do is I'm a very scheduled person. We put our kids to bed around 7:30 every night, so that it doesn't work out perfect every night, but we try, so that we have time to do the other things that are going on. But I have a calendar on the phone and we share the calendar, me and my husband. And I'm really blessed to have a supportive husband, and a partner and teammate in him who helps me and, does the laundry, and picks the kids up and does the things too, and is like in it with me, and helps me to like sort through in my brain when it's like, what should I do, and stuff. And so I know not everybody's married or may have that, but like there are friends, there are family, there are people. And so you have to have people in your corner who you can talk to about stuff. And I think that a lot of times people talk themselves out of something before they ever try. And so what my recommendation would be is if you think you want to do this, just go to the next practice.
Just do it.
Yeah, or just do the next step. You don't have to do 17 steps. Just do the next one. And then after you do that one, then take the next one. And that's literally what got me through my dissertation too, because I could look like, it took me 7 years to finish my PhD. But if I kept looking at that endpoint and comparing myself to the guys in the program who didn't have babies and weren't married and, didn't have all these other things going on, I wouldn't have stayed motivated to do that. My journey is my own, and I just take it a day at a time. Yes, I'm planned, but sometimes the plan changes and you have to be flexible. And you know what? You missed that one practice, and if it hurts you, whatever, just go out there and crush it the next time and prove that you deserve to be out there. Like, not every decision is the end of the world. It's just that decision for that day, and you get to make another one 2 seconds later. So
well said. Thank you. Well, can you invite everybody to the Oblivion game this season?
Yeah.
Give us one more invitation just to send us off.
So we would love for people to come to our games this season. We've got a season opener coming up this weekend at noon at ISA is where we play most of our games unless we're traveling and stuff, which if you're around, come and see us when we're traveling too. We're pretty local in the region. But yeah, we'd love for you to come out and support us, cheer loudly when we score, help us create this culture for women's sports in Oklahoma and for soccer in particular. Please come to the games. Try one, right? Like, just, it's a fun environment. It's a family-oriented environment. And it's fun to watch. Soccer is a really fun sport to watch. And with indoor, it's kind of like hockey. And so it's like quick line changes and these kinds of things. So I think it'll be really fun for people to come out and see, and would love to have as many people at the game.
I think people will be surprised at the level. So I think they're going to like it a lot. Since you made the comparison to it being like hockey, you didn't think about maybe having your brother give you some advice on some indoor tactics on what to look out for, how to read the space, how to maybe come up with some hockey plays that can transition well into indoor soccer?
That's an interesting commentary there. And I did think about that, but just haven't talked to him yet because he's super busy right now. But yeah, I think it would be interesting. I have been, I've talked to Coach Tony a little bit on some of this stuff, just depending on where they're having me play this season, because there's different lineups and formations, right? And different plays, plays and things.
More offensive, more defensive.
Yes. And I've been watching different films of teams and stuff just to kind of see like how they move. Yeah. Yeah. So yes, it's coming, right? And we'll be learning some of that stuff. But yeah, I think that would be cool to have a conversation with Rock about the difference with hockey. Our games actually are going to be streamed live on Facebook Live and stuff too. Nice. So if you can't make a game, you can watch it. You can definitely catch us on Facebook.
Oblivion Oklahoma.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we've got a lot of cool giveaways going on right now too. If people want to go out to our Facebook and Instagram pages, that would be awesome.
They're selling coffee. I see we're following a new person every day on the Oblivion website.
Yeah.
Following through
day in the life.
Yes, the day in the life activity. So they are on it. Yeah, I've been following, and they are doing a really good job. It makes me excited to see what's to come, this only being year 2. So shout out to the organizers and the players too. So yeah, it's going to be a good season.
Well, in businesses, there's lots of great opportunities for businesses to sponsor us too. We're always looking for more sponsors who want to be a part of it. And, get your logos and stuff on the sleeves and everything. Yeah. There's a lot of, I will tell you for sure, because I work with corporate partnership programs at UCO and stuff too. There's a lot of great marketing opportunities for businesses who contribute to the team. And it's, in my opinion, very affordable for what you get out of it and stuff too. And so we would love to have more people sponsor and wear your company's logo on our jerseys and have it in the programs and the tickets and all that kind of fun stuff.
I agree. Well, it was very nice to meet you. I loved your story. Shout out to your mom. Tell her she has a fan because I believe she played a really, really big role. And yeah, this was fun.
Yeah. Well, it was good to meet you too.
Likewise. Thank you. Well, that's been another episode for the people that have been listening. We appreciate you guys for listening up to this point, and check us out at the Oblivion Oklahoma games. Thank you.